Nintendo's hosting asset flips. It's been a long time since we've gotten to sit down together and discuss a true dyed-in-the-wool, old-fashioned asset flip. And today we're talking about one in the truest, most classical sense of the term. A game that was literally purchased from an asset store, intended to be used as a foundation upon which to build an original game, but is instead simply renamed and then resold by a developer, passing it off as their original work. Asset flips, of course, rose to prominence when Steam threw open the floodgates and let any old shit appear on its storefront. The Steam Greenlight project seemed to encourage a gaggle of cynical hack fucks passing off pre-bought content as their work. And over time, a number of familiar faces started to crop up. UnitZ was one of the most famous, one of the most notorious. UnitZ was perfectly purchasable on the Unity asset store and contained a working map complete with enemies, buildings, weapons, etc. But most unimaginative, lazy, greedy, cheap developers simply took that map and then told people it was their game. And as per licensing agreements for these assets, it's legal to do. Well, fortunately, UnitZ has not yet arrived on the Nintendo eShop. Yet. That I know of. But one of the other usual suspects has, and that asset pack is Hammer 2. Renamed The Bullet Time of Revenge and tossed up on the Nintendo Switch eShop for $4.49. Now for $49.99 you can go to the Unity asset store and buy full game kit Hammer 2, which will not only have the game that's been renamed The Bullet Time of Revenge on the Switch, but also includes all of the assets, the code, the art, everything you need to take Hammer 2 and turn it into your own original game, which is what it's fucking there for. You can also just play it for free in your fucking browser! And The Bullet Time of Revenge has already tricked people. One YouTube channel, Nintendo Galaxy, has gameplay footage of The Bullet Time of Revenge, and they didn't know that the whole thing was a sham. When I used to regularly cover the kind of trash that used to stand out on Steam but is now just part of the background scenery, Hammer 2 Reloaded became like an old friend, similar to UnitZ or that one spider head monster that asset flippers just love using. It was something I'd see pretty regularly, probably because the game kit was designed to allow users to create their own Grand Theft Auto style games, which of course could be lucrative in the right hands. Well, most of the people that got a hold of Hammer 2 Reloaded had hands covered in shit, and we got such titles as Agent 777 or Cobra Out for Justice. But while they had different names, they were the same fucking game. The exact same game as The Bullet Time of Revenge. Now, there are multiple videos on my channel about Hammer 2 Reloaded under a new name, and I haven't dug them all out through my vaults yet, but the two I found, the one I found for Cobra Out for Justice, that was 4 years ago. I published that video 4 years ago. And here we are in the year 2020 current year argument, and these rampaging dickheads are still pulling the same shit with the same games, unchanged. I can't believe that today I am still talking about Hammer 2 fucking Reloaded, and I'm actually talking about it as a Switch game now. Now, Nintendo has been very welcoming of all manner of independent games, all manner of games in general. And while this has led to some fantastic games in a versatile format, the Switch is my favourite platform for a reason, it's also seen the Switch inundated with shit. Absolute rotten shit like Vaccine. And plenty of half-assed quasi-developers have tried to exploit the platform for money, but this is a level of old-school asset flippery that would almost warm my heart if it wasn't so despicable. Even a cursory comparison between The Bullet Time of Revenge and Hammer 2 Reloaded lets you know that it's the exact same fucking thing. In fact, we shouldn't even be calling this a comparison, because that implies there are two different things, and there isn't. There aren't two different things. They share the same protagonists, the same weapons, the same environments, the same user interface, the same everything, because they're the same. And if this is where we're at now, if we're getting the purest of the pure asset flips, the classic asset flips, the ones that aren't even subtle, the ones that are well known and documented, if they're getting up on the Nintendo Switch eShop, no bother, then we're gonna have to brace ourselves for a torrent of garbage. If the Hammer 2 Reloaded can get on the Switch, then UnitZ can get on the Switch. Hell, Nintendo might as well give the thumbs up to such poisonous filth as the Slaughtering Grounds. You know, hopefully, Nintendo doesn't go the Valve route and just say, fuck it, put whatever you like up. One does like to think Nintendo still does have actual standards. But it does low-key disturb me to see Hammer 2 Reloaded all these years later on a Nintendo platform. And speaking of Nintendo platforms, that is itself an issue for indie games. Now, when I talked about asset flips on Steam, when I used to cover that a lot more regularly, I would point out how visibility is an issue, how a lot of these trash games would come out and completely fucking bury anything with some actual effort put into it. But at least Steam, for all of its faults, had curation, it had user reviews, it had community features for each game. But on the Switch, once you leave that new releases page, your only other alternative to regain visibility is to slash the price to 50 cents and see it popped up in the bestsellers section, which apparently actually works out really well for some super small indies. But what happens if we get a deluge of Hammer 2s and UnitZs also coming out and choking up the new releases page and then slashing their prices to 50 cents? It's something I've worried about for a while. I mean, a lot of indies migrated to platforms like the Switch when they couldn't get any traction on Steam and actually saw some success. But once Nintendo came out and said in 2018 that it wanted 20 to 30 games a week on the platform, I was concerned about those indie developers for whom the Switch was a haven because Steam was so bloody saturated. I did voice my concern at the time that Nintendo could end up going the Valve route if it wasn't careful, and here we are, Hammer 2 Reloaded is on the Switch. I'm not saying this is the beginning of the end, I'm not saying things are going to snowball from here, I'm just saying it's a little bit worrying. It's a little bit alarming if you care about this thing. I realise not everyone cares about asset flips, not everyone cares about store saturation, but I do, I always have, I always will, and I do care about this. Hammer 2 Reloaded being on the Switch is not a sign that Nintendo will definitely become the next Valve, but it is a sign that there's all the potential in the world for that to happen, and that con merchants masquerading as developers can find a footing there. And it's an apt demonstration that the most cynical, obvious, blatant asset flips in the land can get away with bamboozling customers right under Nintendo's nose. For me, the true sign that things have gone to shit at Nintendo will be if I see a second Hammer 2 Reloaded on the eShop, which anyone would be able to fucking do. Like I said, it's completely legal. When you buy one of these asset packs, you also buy the rights to do whatever the fuck you want with them. It's not illegal to sell an asset flip, it's just unethical, and ethics aren't going to get in the way of anyone who's flipping assets. So really, any one of you watching this now could go buy Hammer 2 Reloaded from the Unity Asset Store and then call yourself a game developer. You just call yourself a game developer. You can rename it to something like Gunny Bang Bang and then put it up on the eShop, and then you're a game developer. So the world around us has irrevocably changed as a result of these uncertain times, but it's nice to see that some things will never change. Literally. They literally won't change. In over 4 years. Bloody hell!